Hey guys, are you here? And today we're going over everything Mage in New World. We're going over talents for the Ice Gauntlet and the Fire Staff. We're going over gearing in terms of medium, heavy, and light, and perks for your gear, perks for the Ice Gauntlet, perks for the Fire Staff, gemming, amulets, rings, earrings, stat weights, and objectives for your gameplay with Mage. So everything you're gonna need to know in this video right here, right now. Let's start with the Ice Gauntlet and the Fire Staff. What's a good Ice Gauntlet? What's a good Fire Staff for PvP? All right, if you're a Mage, what are you looking for from an Ice Gauntlet? What are you looking for in a Fire Staff? So I'll show you my current Ice Gauntlet. It has pure int. So this is important. We don't want int and strength or int and focus. If we can, pure int. A full con would be okay too, or a split between int and con. But you don't want other stats like strength or focus or dexterity or something like that. And I'll get into stat distributions in a little bit here, but we're going for full int. We definitely 1000% need a gem socket in the Ice Gauntlet. Why? In the Ice Gauntlet, you need Cruel 4, which is a Malachite gem, which is going to give you plus damage against CC'd target, so slow, stun, or rooted. This is going to make sense a little bit later, but this is super, super critical for the Ice Gauntlet. We have Keen, which gives you 11% critical chance. This is very, very important. I would say Keen is the #1 best perk you can get onto an Ice Gauntlet, or just period on anything. Having that critical chance is crazy. And once again, we'll get into that a little bit later when we go through the talents, but having that critical chance is huge. Now, refreshing move. Now, this isn't terrible and it's not great. I think the best in slot would either be Keen and Enchanted or Keen and Vicious. Vicious gives you critical damage, so every time you're critting, you're getting more critical damage, which means you just have huge crits. Refreshing move is pretty good, but I would say that your top three would be Keen, Enchanted, and Vicious. Some that are like okay would be Refreshing move, and then Keenly Empowered. Keenly Empowered is, here on my Fire Staff, you get damage on a critical for 5 seconds. You get 15% of power for 5 seconds on crits. And it synergizes pretty well with Keen, so it's okay, but it's not something that would overtake Enchanted or Vicious. So yeah, here's the Ice Gauntlet. So you basically are looking for something with high gear score, with full int, or int con, or con, with a gem socket, and then Keen, Enchanted, or Vicious, or Refreshing move, or Keenly Empowered. Now with the Fire Staff, very similar, right? We're looking for full int, we need a socket, and this time though, we're not putting in the Malachite, we're putting in the Opal, which gives you 15% damage when your stamina is not full. So every time you're rolling, and stamina, guys, is not health, it's the yellow bar here. Every time you're rolling and your stamina is not full, every time that doesn't say 100, we're going to be getting 15% increased damage, right? This is really, really nice. Now, there is a bug on the flawed gems. They give you a lot more damage as well. The flawed, like any of the flawed cuts, whether it's aquamarine or fire or whatever, but it does not apply the extra damage to fireball, right? And this is something that I learned about recently. So if you fireball and you have like the flawed amethyst, it's not going to give you increased damage. In fact, it's going to reduce your damage. And that's why I'm playing with the Opal over the bugged flawed gems. And of course, hopefully they fix the bug pretty soon here where Opal will just be better because it's a better gem, right? Now, the Ice Gauntlet and Fire Staff abilities. I have done previous videos on this, so I'm not going to spend an insane amount of time on it, but I do want to go over one change that I did. And keep in mind, this video is mainly for PvP in 1v1 situations and 1vx situations. So out in the world versus multiple people or in a duel. So we are changing the 1 point from First Strike into Fiery Restoration, and everything else is the same, which I'll briefly go over. But why did I do this switch? Now, First Strike gives you more damage on a Pillar of Fire when they're at full health. The only time I found this talent actually coming in useful in PvP, world PvP, and in duels was really when I found someone AFK out in the world and I just wanted to one-shot them and gank them, and then I just killed them instantly with First Strike. Now, don't get me wrong, First Strike is great for leveling, but for PvP against other good players, how often are you going to get a pillar on someone with full life? Almost never, right? So I dropped that and I gained Fiery Restoration. Now with Fiery Restoration, you get reduced CDs on fire heavy attacks. Now in PvP, you're mainly using heavy attacks. Heavy attacks, I think, are a little bit easier to aim. Well, one, you have a longer time to aim them versus a light attack where you just spam shoot. It's harder to aim them. But I do believe there's a little bigger of a fireball. Seems like the radius is easier to land. I don't know if that's just me or if that's you guys too, but it seems like light attacks are hard to land and heavy attacks are a lot easier. Regardless, you're doing a lot of heavy attacks in PvP, so you can throw out your fireball and then spam like 1 or 2 heavies. If you get a couple heavies, you can throw another fireball a lot sooner, increasing your DPS in PvP, specifically against a bow or a fire staff user in a duel. So I'm loving this talent. Now for the rest, we're going with spell focus, so you get mana back on your on your heavy attacks. Once again, heavy attacks with the fire staff, there's going to be another talent here which modifies this as well, are just super, super great. They hit hard, they restore mana, they restore your cooldowns, and they cost no mana. So heavy attacks is your fire staff. Think about it as like your mana battery. It's your go-to. Pull out the fire staff, spam heavies, throw a couple rolls in there, you'll be full mana in no time. Here we have Clear Mind. You gain Empower above 50% mana, which is great. Fireball, super amazing ability. It took a little bit of getting used to Fireball. It's almost like a noob tube in Call of Duty or something, where it like instantly launches, but at like a weird kind of trajectory. So you have to learn how to aim it. You know, if someone's far, you have to aim up. If someone's close, you can aim at the ground. But what's nice is the big splash damage with it. You can really almost guarantee to land it as long as someone doesn't iframe immune it with a dodge or a roll. And it's just a lot of damage guaranteed, and it's splash damage as well. Now, the only reason I don't go with Scorched Earth or with Catch is because, well, one, you don't really have the points for it. But two, no one is really going to stand in a Fireball burning field. Now, if you're playing for Outpost Rush or for wars where people are standing and you're trying to just pad for as much damage as possible in a war, I would actually say you could probably go Scorched Earth. And even in a war, you could probably think about going First Strike since people are getting healed a lot of the times. But this is for 1vx, this is for 1v1s, this is for duels, this is becoming like the best solo player you can be. And in a situation like that, no one's going to be standing in a Scorched Earth ever. It's just kind of a waste of talent. And although Catch would be nice, like if Catch was in this place, I might actually get it. It gives you mana back and reduces cooldowns. It's kind of a nice talent. It's pretty hard to land the direct hits, but all in all, I don't think it's worth having to get Scorched Earth and Catch just for this talent. But we are going to Singe, so when we get critical hits, the target burns, which is fantastic. Singe strongly synergizes with Let It Burn. Every time you have Burn, you get Fortify. So Burn and Singe are going back and forth there. We have Clear Casting, which makes you do more damage if you haven't taken damage, which is amazing. A lot of the times, you're going to be full HP as a caster. You get 15% crit. This is one of the best abilities you could have. Just like, okay, 15% crit. Attacks no longer consume mana. You get crit increase while holding a fire staff, and Runes of Helios. I don't like runes that much. It's one of those abilities that like I would consider replacing this. If you want to replace it with something else and go Scorched Earth or First Strike, go for it. It's pretty good in PvE, but in PvP you can't really stand still. So it's this rune on the ground that gives you Empower. You know, if you can take advantage and kind of like go back and forth and dodge in it, go for it. But pretty much don't overestimate the benefit of Runes of Helios and stand in it and get yourself killed. I would run out of Runes of Helios if you need to run out of it. We have Pyromania, which is going to give you, when you're below 50% max health, you get increase in damage, which is just insane. You can get huge crits with it, or non-crits. We got Let It Burn, which we covered. We got Kindle, which is nice. It actually synergizes very well with Let It Burn, which is why I wouldn't want to drop this talent, because it makes you inherently tankier for longer. We have Watch It Burn, which is light attacks cause the enemy to catch fire. Now, if you're going to drop a talent, this is one of them that you could consider dropping. It's pretty good, especially maybe on an Outpost Rush, killing PvE mobs, you're spamming light attacks. But in duels or 1vx, you're almost never using light attacks with the Fire Staff. This is one you could consider dropping for, let's say, First Strike if you wanted to have fun with that, or Scorched Earth and Runes of Helios, and you get Catch. You know, that wouldn't be bad, although I do think overall this build is going to be a little bit better. Now we have Combat Speed, which gives you the increased haste when you use Fire Staff abilities, and we got Burnout, All In, and Heat Up, right? This is giving you the distance on that burnout. Man, burnout actually does a good amount of damage, and it's going to save you in so many situations. It gives the mage build a little bit of mobility, which is pretty freaking awesome. So that's the fire staff. Like I said, I've done other videos to go more in depth, but that's what we're doing. We changed one talent around. Now with the ice gauntlet, I've tried a couple different ice gauntlet builds. I haven't changed anything around. Now at the moment of recording this video, ice gauntlet ice storm is bugged and heavy freeze is bugged sometimes. It works about half. Hopefully New World developers will fix this very soon, but I haven't changed a single talent here. I love this build. It's great. We're getting critical rejuvenation, cold reach, energized critical. All of these abilities synergize really well with each other. Gathering Storm is something that I was considering swapping, but you actually need it if you want to unlock Ultimate Chill, which of course gives you so much extra damage on those chill targets. Ice Spikes, a lot of questions. You can maybe go Ice Shower and get big crits with Ice Spikes. Yes, you can. Here's the problem. If you Ice Shower and you don't go for a heavy and you Ice Spike instead, yeah, you did a lot of burst, but now they're free. You don't have enough time consistently to Ice Shower and Ice Spikes and land a heavy, and that's problematic. Why do you want to land a heavy? Because they get frozen for 1 second. Why do you want them frozen for 1 second? So you can land another heavy. So you can land another heavy. So you can land another heavy. That's how you kill someone. That's the combo right there, right? And we'll go over that a little bit later. But Ice Shower into 3 or 4 heavies, or Ice Shower into Ice Storm into a couple heavies is kind of the play. And Ice Spikes hinders that a little bit. So yeah, it's a lot of burst. Yeah, it can be fun. Go for it if you want. But in terms of consistently pulling off 1v1s, 1v2s, 1vx, I would probably advise with this build here. Now, we have Ice Storm fully talented, Ice Shower fully talented, Defiant Freeze, which gives you Fortify on ice abilities, which is great. Refreshing Frost, which is really nice actually for reducing cooldowns. When I'm bursting someone, I can get them in here, and then I can land a couple heavies and get Refreshing Frost, which is going to reduce my cooldowns, which is pretty dope. So I can actually do the combo sooner. And then I'm Entombed and Quick Frost, right? Quick Frost is just because I don't want blocking stamina. I don't block too much. I'd rather roll or strafe than stand still and block with a... It's just not super value. The 10% speed doesn't do too much either, but it helps out a little bit for kiting. And Entombed, of course, gotta get it. Gives you the mana regen. You can break it to do damage, or you can right-click to not do damage and save that mana. Strength Entombed and a Cleansing Tome are not bad options, especially Strength Entombed. If I could drop Gathering Storm for Strength Entombed, I would, but like I said, you need 10 points before you can get Ultimate Chill, so you actually can't drop Gathering for it. Could consider dropping Refreshing Frost or Defiant Freeze, but I don't think either one of those is worth it. So it's good, you just don't have room for it, really. I would drop one of these talents, but you can't, and dropping any of these does not seem worth it. Frigid Showers is way too good. Yeah. I also wanted to mention briefly, Punishing Storm is bugged, where if you have a storm out and you swap weapons, it will stop doing damage. I still take the talent for a couple reasons. One, I hope New World fixes that bug soon. Two, it gives you 10% damage for each enemy in Ice Storm. So one enemy equals 10% more damage. Hey, I'll take 10% damage. That's great. And three, when you use Ice Storm, 99% of the time, you should be going for heavies, man. You shouldn't be swapping out to your Fire Staff. The only time you'd swap to your Fire Staff is if they ran out of it anyways. And if they ran out of it anyways, then the bug doesn't actually hurt you at all. So I still go with that talent, even though it's bugged, and it's pretty solid. So those are the talents. Those are the Ice Gauntlet and the Fire Staff. Let's move on to gearing. Now, with gearing, we get a lot of questions. Which gear should you go for? Now, I have the full Marauder set for light armor. I've done a lot of testing on light armor versus medium armor. Basically, what we're looking for here is if you're playing light armor, you want to go with full light with a medium chest. Now, there's a couple different combinations that can work here, and I'll actually pull up a spreadsheet that will show all of these combinations, and I'll link this down below if you do want to check it out. But for light armor, one of the best ways that you can do it in terms of your total weight and total rating is going to be full light with a medium chest. If you want, there's different ways you can build this. You can have medium hands, medium legs, and with light here on the feet, chest, and head. Like I said, a couple different ways you can do it with the stats being pretty much equal. Now, scrolling up to the top, it's also going to show us how we can build a medium set in the best possible way. right? We can do heavy helm, heavy chest, medium hands, light legs, and medium feet. That's a very common one that we see a lot of the times. But there's a couple different ways that you can build your character and still have optimal stats. But you do want to make sure you build it in an optimal way. So like I said, definitely check out this spreadsheet calculator down below. But getting back to the gearing, now there's a couple different use cases for light versus medium versus heavy, right? So light is my favorite for 1v1s and 1vx in general in world PvP. If I'm just running around trying to capture a fort, if I'm trying to duel my friend, it's going to be in light gear, right? I'm playing light gear because you get a little bit of extra movement speed because you have a roll that you can animation cancel with, right? If you roll and sheath or unsheath the weapon, you can roll very quickly and kite very, very well. This is fantastic for 1vx. Now, I do want to mention that it says you deal 20% bonus damage and healing. This has been tested, and you really only get about 8 or 9% bonus damage from light armor. Why? There's some speculation that it's just bugged. There's other speculation that the 20% bonus damage comes in before mitigations come into play. Mitigations from elemental damage resistance and from gear, physical and elemental resistances. So if you're doing 20% bonus damage, but then that bonus damage is cut in half, you might only be doing 10%, right? So we'll see how this plays out. Also with resilient reducing it as well. We'll see how this plays out. We're not sure if that's bugged or if that's on purpose. I do believe myself it's probably on purpose. But I still like light for that roll, for that extra mobility. Now, when would you not want to play light? So light armor is pretty weak in mage versus mage duels because, well, there's a few reasons for that. One, because in a mage versus mage duel, it's going to be kind of like a fire staff duel back and forth, and it's going to be whoever can be tankier and land their hits. And with roll, you're only going to get 2 rolls before you're out of energy, right? Now with medium armor, you're going to get 3 little side steps or hops before you're out of energy. So you're actually going to be able to dodge more effectively at range with the medium armor, and you're going to deal similar amount of damage, maybe a little bit less, but you're also going to be a lot tankier. So against ranged, right? A bow, a musket, a mage in a 1v1, the medium armor is actually better. The medium armor might be a little bit worse against like Great Axe Warhammer 1v1s, a melee 1v1, like a Hatchet Warhammer or a Hatchet Great Axe. Medium might also be a little bit better in wars, right? In wars, a lot of the action is happening at range, outpost rush, at range with a healer. So if you want to optimize for wars, outposts, or duels versus casters or range, I would suggest playing medium armor mage. If you want to specialize in 1vx and world PvP, maybe capturing a fort, you know, rolling around and kiting like 4 guys or whatever, I would go with light armor. You're also gonna get that little bit of bonus damage, and I just play light personally because it's pretty fun. But if I was in like a dueling tournament and I wanted to win really bad, it was for like $1 million or something, and I was up against a mage, I would probably swap to medium armor, right? And for heavy armor, I haven't actually not done too much testing. I want to be transparent, but I would see no reason why heavy armor in a war wouldn't be even better for just being tankier, right? You only lose 10% damage and 10% CC. You lose the quick hop, which might be a little iffy, but then you're really, really, really tanky. So for wars, yeah, maybe even go heavy armor. Now, what armor are we looking at getting? What are we even looking at in terms of gear? Resilient is by far best in slot for the armor perk right now. You have critical hits deal 4.5% less damage to you. Now, you might think that's pretty good, but it's actually better than pretty good. It's great. It's bugged to give you 4% less damage to you. So you're just getting just 100%, 4.5% less damage, and it stacks 5 times. You're getting 22.5. Is that math right? Hopefully 22.5% reduced damage to you with all of this gear added up. That's a lot of reduced damage. Now, I'm sure Amazon Studios is going to fix this eventually, so that's not going to be in forever. However, even without the bug, it's still probably the best in slot perk for PvP. And then we have refreshing. It reduces max cooldowns by 2.5%. This stacks up 5 times. So what is that? 12.5%. That's really, 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 really good because you can combo with your Ice Gauntlet more frequently. You can combo with the Fire Staff more frequently. So, yeah, and we'll go over those combos in a sec. But yeah, this is like Resilient Refreshing is super, super good. Now, there is a perk called Refreshing Pillar, which allows you to get Pillar of Fire on a lower cooldown. Now, if you're in Wars or Outpost and you want to just spam Pillar of Fire, reduce the cooldown, spam Pillar of Fire, reduce the cooldown, Refreshing Pillar can be good. This is better in larger scale PvP, right? Larger scale PvP. It's also something that you could consider going with more Pillar of Fire perks, but I don't play it because in a duel, it's not something that you actually want to just be spamming because you have to be standing still. You can animation cancel Pillar of Fire with a roll, but still, it's mana intensive. A lot of the times I'd rather just be dodging and rolling or pull out the Ice Gauntlet. So refreshing Pillar in a 1v1, maybe not so much, but I did want to mention it for Wars or for Outposts. So essentially, we're looking at Resilient and Refreshing. We're looking at, of course, you want it socketed and you want int or con, or one or the other is fine. Pure con or pure int is okay. If you're going with heavy gear, you can go full Void Bent. If you're going with light gear, or sorry, if you're going with medium gear, you can go Void Bent and Shadewalker, kind of a mix, and refer back to that spreadsheet on how you might want to mix that. And with light gear, you can go Beast Hunter Chest with Shadewalker for the rest of the gear. But keep in mind, anything with Resilient and or Refreshing, or both, with the breakpoints in that spreadsheet is going to be fantastic for PvP. So that's pretty much that. Now, gemming. Onyx gems were previously bugged, a lot of bugs, to reduce all damage taken. They fixed that bug a couple days ago that I tested it myself. It doesn't reduce all damage anymore. It seems to just be reducing physical damage. So since Onyx gems aren't reducing all damage, I just have one Onyx in my helm, and that's actually pretty much it right now. One Onyx in my helm, and then I have the rest as opals to reduce elemental damage absorption. Now, you can kind of mess around with this, and I've been messing around it with myself. Essentially, you want to mix between how much physical damage reduction and how much elemental damage reduction. And I would just go full physical or full LE, not like specific elements like fire or slash or thrust, for example. I think being overall, just having that overall utility is just a little bit better for 1vx or 1v1s in general. But for this gear, I'm going with 4 opals and 1 onyx. And I actually have an opal in my earring. And I have thrust ward in my ring. It's just what it came with. You actually can't resocket this because it's an emerald ring. And then I have a topaz in my necklace, which also kind of is unfortunate, but it's just the way it goes. You can't replace it if the gem name is in the name of the item. So a mix between onyx and opals. Why am I going more opals instead of more onyx? You could also do diamonds or malachites. Diamonds have a built-in kind of like split between physical and elemental resist. Same thing with malachites, except it's reversed. So I seem to struggle most with other mages, like in a 1v1, or struggle most getting hit by a fireball or getting comboed by an ice gauntlet. So that's why I have more elemental damage absorption. I don't seem to struggle with anything physical too much, right? Like, if I'm fighting a Great Axe Warhammer, if I don't mess up, I should be able to win that 1v1 90% of the time, or most of the time. Against a bow or a hatchet or, you know, a musket, I do pretty well with without any physical damage absorption. I don't seem to lose. So basically, I've tested it a lot, and I've found more elemental damage is kind of resistance is kind of what the build needs in order to not die. And in most cases, you're totally fine against melee, especially with light armor. Now, if you're going with medium armor and you're having trouble tanking, I mean, you're tankier, but you can't kite as well. You could maybe consider changing that up a little bit, because medium will already inherently be better versus casters, like we already talked about. So anyway, it's a split between onyx and opals, depending on what you struggle against. And for me, I seem to struggle against casters a little bit more, so I have a little bit more opals for that reduced damage. Now, let's talk amulets, rings, and earrings, and perks on these guys as well. Now, with the amulet, the best perk you want to go for is health, right? Having 8.5% more maximum health on one piece of gear, it's like 1,000 life on just a necklace. It's insane. So you definitely want health on necklace for the perk in PvP. Of course, on anything you want int or con or both, right? A lightning ward 4 is not ideal. Ideal would be either an onyx or an opal or a diamond or a malachite. One of those 4 would be would be really, really nice. But we have lightning damage absorption. Now, I do have divine here on the necklace, and I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's great. I think it's somewhere in between. For wars and outposts, it's pretty good. 8.9% more from health, incoming healing effects. It's going to help if someone's healing you, right? It's also going to help with potions, I believe, and I'm not sure about food. I think it counts food as well. So it's overall pretty good. I actually have a pretty good necklace, other than that lightning ward. Now, if it was up to me, I would probably go with refreshing instead of divine, right? And have my cooldowns come off a little bit quicker. Or empowered. I think there's some decent options here. You can kind of play around with the second slot. Empowered could be a good option, so your empower lasts a bit longer on crits. Just depends what you want to go with, but I think divine is a fine option here. But you definitely want to iron in getting health on your necklace, because it's going to give you so much extra health. That's why I have 10,000 life as a light armor wearer. It's crazy. Ring next. 100% the lock-in is keen awareness. Keen awareness is basically just keen. It gives you 10% crit. That's nuts. 10% crit on a single ring? Like, it's just crazy. It's so much value. You can't go without it. Int con with keen awareness, or int or con with keen awareness. Once again, thrust ward, not very good. I would rather have the onyx or the opal, malachite, or the diamond. And then refreshing is actually pretty nice, right? So this is a pretty darn good ring, other than that gem. So overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Probably try to replace it eventually. And once again, since it's a pristine emerald ring, I can't replace the gem. If it was another type of ring, I could. And then we have the ill-gotten gain. This is a legendary drop. I got it on 33 or 34 tries. Nothing crazy. Gives you full con, which is great. You can replace the gem, so I put in the opal. And it's really nice for PvP because you have refreshing toast, so you can use potions on cooldown quicker, which is amazing for world PvP 1vx. You gain health every second, so this thing's just constantly healing you. Although I do want to mention it bugs a lot, so if it's not healing you, just take it off and put it back on again, and it'll fix it. Every time you die, I think it bugs it out. And when you drink a potion, there's a 12% chance it doesn't consume. It's nice if you're slamming pots all day long. You can, you know, go through them a little bit slower. So I love this thing. It's ill-gotten gain. It's from a rare here in Eden Grove in Lower Slag Mine. If you go in the Lower Slag Mine, it's just the rare spawn at the top. And yeah, 34 kills for it. Nothing crazy, crazy, crazy. So that's what we're going for in the earring, the jewelry, the gems. We have the fire staff, the ice gauntlet. Now let's look at some of the attribute splits. Now I've done quite a bit of testing here. I've tried 300 int with 100 con. My overall verdict is that it's pretty darn good to go 300, 100. And I'm talking without food buffs here. I personally like to play without food buffs. I find it weird to have a spec and then finish your spec with more like food buffs. I don't know, personally I just find it weird. So I'm playing without food buffs here with the spec. 300, 100 is a pretty decent build. Now what I find with 300, 100 is it's great against most things, but against ranged, you're not quite tanky enough. If you get headshot by a bow, you're almost dead, right? If you get bursted by a mage, you're almost dead because you just don't have much life. So I tried 200, 200 with 200 con, 200 in, and 200 con, 200 in, I feel pretty tanky. It's pretty nice, but I feel like I hit like a wet noodle, all right? The 200 con perk, it's also important to note, it gives you 20% increase to armor, but that armor only works with physical, not elemental. So you're not actually getting any tankier besides the 1,000 life that you gain from the extra 50 con to elemental. And you're kind of kiting physical anyway. So you lose a lot of damage for a little bit of a gain in terms of your HP. Doesn't seem worth it. Now the middle ground, 250, 150. It's what I've really been liking. It feels good against melee. It feels good against range. I feel like I still burst really hard, but I'm still pretty tanky. It's what I've been playing with the last week or so. I've been loving it. You can do 300, 100 if you want, but you're going to be a little squishy to ranged, but you're going to burst even harder. You can play 200, 200 if you want. You might be a little bit better against range, but you're not going to burst quite as hard, and you're kind of just, you're only getting a little bit tankier. So it's kind of up to you. Now, I did want to mention dexterity. A lot of questions. Is 50 dex worth it for 5% crit? Now, I haven't done too much testing myself, but it seems to me as if 50 points, 45 to be exact, into dexterity would just be better off into int. Just getting 45 more points into int would just give you more overall damage. Of course, you would lose 30% duration to damage over time if you swapped int to dex, right? And the damage over time effects actually helps out the Fire Staff ability, like we talked at the start of this video, Let It Burn. So if you have longer dots, you're going to get fortified longer. It synergizes fantastically. So this talent is actually going to make you a bit tankier in addition to doing more damage. Now, getting this 5% crit if you're playing with a rapier might be worth it because you actually get rapier benefit from it. So if you're playing like Fire Staff rapier or Ice Gauntlet rapier, you could consider playing with dexterity. But like I said, if you're just going for a pure mage build, it just doesn't seem worth it to drop that 5% or to gain 5% crit and to drop 45 points in int. You're just dropping so much damage. So that's the stat weights and when to use each one. Let's go over just generally, now that you know exactly how to build your character, your mage character in New World for PvP, over objectives, rotation, playstyle. What are we doing here? So a lot of the times versus casters, Fire Staff does very, very, very well. So if I see a musket player, if I see a bow player, if I see a Fire Staff player, essentially I'm strafing back and forth and I'm hitting heavy attacks and launching my fireball on cooldown, right? I can also pull out the Ice Gauntlet and try to land an Ice Shower or an Ice Storm and try to land heavies in it, but most of the time they'll roll away, right? Now, the combo for melee, guys. If someone's far from you, you want that Fire Staff, like we just talked about. If someone rushes you close, you have a few options. The first thing I would do is pull out the Ice Gauntlet and try to land an Ice Shower, right? If you heavy attack in the Ice Shower, it's going to freeze them still, okay? Like we talked about with heavy freeze, this is huge, huge, huge value. Now, what I try to do a lot of the times as well is to pair an Ice Shower with an Ice Storm and heavy. This is real. This is so much damage, man. You throw down this, and then you heavy attack them. And I actually like to run to where my Ice Shower is in front of me, so it kind of protects me that entire way through. Now, if I run this way, you can kind of get through it a little bit easier. So if I try to land that same combo, I can either run like this, but they can get to me easier, or I can run like this, and it's really hard for them to get to me because they stay in that same line. So we're trying to land heavies, keep those heavies rolling, and stun lock them basically until they die. That's the objective versus melee. Now, if they get out of this, you can roll back, wait for a little bit of energy, and roll back again. And then, of course, you still always have your ice block, and you still can always swap weapons and get out of range with your burnout. But with all of that mobility and the slows, a lot of the times you can use the Ice Storm and the Ice Shower as just like dead zoning them, right? So you can kind of just kite around your own Ice Shower. You just stay in here and kite around your own Ice Shower. If they stay in it, they're getting owned. If they run away, then you gain distance, right? And a lot of the times you can kind of Ice Shower, Ice Storm, and then block, and then Ice Shower, Ice Storm, and then block. And basically, you can do really, really well against anyone in melee range, right? This is going to be a hammer, a great axe. Of course, there's like counter plays and a lot of stuff like that that you want to be aware of, but hatchet, rapier, Ice Gauntlet just owns in close distance to medium range. Now, for far range, once again, the Ice Gauntlet isn't as good. For one, the projectile is a bit smaller, so it's harder to land the Ice Gauntlet lights and heavy attacks. But for two, the Fire Staff actually just does a bit more damage. You're going to get some benefit from kindling. You also have abilities like Fireball, which are really easy to land. So Fire Staff for ranged, Ice Gauntlet for close. You're trying to get that big Ice Gauntlet Shatter combo when you get rushed. Other than that, you play far and you do really, really well with that Fire Staff. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, we went over everything Mage in New World. You should know exactly how to build your character and how to play Mage after watching this. If you enjoyed the video, give it a big thumbs up. If you did not enjoy the video, you can thumbs it down. It's okay too. Talk to me down below in the comments about what you guys want to see in upcoming uploads, and don't forget to subscribe. Peace.